All right, we're back. What's up, party people? My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. I've got I've got a couple of interviews today lined up. The first one was with a gentleman by the name of Chris McKenna. He is got a very, very interesting company that he's building, and he's also a very interesting person. Chris spent roughly 20 years in Maine law enforcement, moving from patrol officer in Waterville to sergeant in Skohagen before turning inventor and founder. He's not a typical defense CEO, alongside the badge. He built a creative life, authoring theoretical papers, writing 9 feature screenplays, producing award-winning short films, and designing book covers. That mix of field expert experience and kind of like this restless invention is kind of the through line of everything we're going to be talking about today and what he's building. He's a person who, both wore the gear, felt the threat, and had both the technical instinct and the stubbornness to essentially do something about it. So I'm going to bring on Chris. How you doing, man?
Very good. You?
Good. Whereabouts in the world are you calling in from today, Chris?
Skowhegan.
Skowhegan.
Skowhegan,
Okay, I knew
Maine.
I pronounced it incorrectly.
It's
It's
all good.
Skowhegan. Yeah, where's that?
Skowhegan. It's in central Maine.
In central Maine. Cool. Well, Chris, I'd like to kick it off with maybe just give us like the 30 seconds, just the high level on what you're building. Um, yeah, and then we'll just kind of slow it down a little bit after that. But yeah, just dive right into the deep end. Tell me what it is that you're building. And I don't know
Well,
if
the
you have a
main,
demo or something or like something on your desk you can show because that
oh,
was
sure. The main thing we're building, I'm moving towards, is changing the eyewear standard for law enforcement, military, first responders. And it's just, it hasn't moved since the 1950s. And I actually found a way to do it that is not only practical, but maintains the weight standard. So we're trying to knock that wall down.
And why is this important?
Very important because when you talk about standardization of protection equipment, the most thing I go to is the helmet. You can see one sitting right there. It lives in my office. That helmet has a specific standard to protect your head against threats, and most of the threats they're trying to protect you from is flying debris or flying things. They'll test them with a 9 millimeter. They'll shoot it directly, but that's not really the intended purpose behind the helmet. Is to protect your head from various threats, fragmentation, blast, that type of stuff. So we have a specific standard for here. This one doesn't even equate, doesn't come close to what the helmet is doing. And my question is when you in my law enforcement days, when we were at the range and we're shooting as for threat levels, we called it a T box. So you have center mass and here. So this is your aim spot. Well, we've got great SAPI plates that protect you against threats on here. You got great head protection, but this is missing. This whole area right here, the mandible and the eyewear version is missing. Um, the data comes out from Afghanistan, Iraq, and we're talking IEDs that are on the ground, improvised explosive devices, these things that are just turned into bombs on ground level, and they were messing people up as far as legs, extremities, groin, that type of thing. Now that threat has completely, that threat, even when we had that threat back in the day, eyewear is accounted for like 14% of battlefield injuries. So you're talking something the size of an almond on the surface area of your body that accounts for 14% of all reported injuries. Yet it isn't up to the same standard as your helmets or your SAPI plates or even your groin protection and all this other stuff. So it was a problem. It's been an identified problem which has been expanded upon by drones. Drones are now head level bursts. So there is a need. There's a huge need for it. Absolutely huge need for it.
And how could it have been overlooked for so long? I mean, it seems kind of intuitive, right? Like your
It
eyes are
does, but you
your
run
window into
into
your brain and I mean everything
yeah.
else.
I think you run into institutionalism. You run into there's companies out there that make a lot of money on eyewear. Why would they change a standard when they have a bottom line to feed?
Got
They've
it.
already got tooling set up. They've already got people in place. They're spending however many hundreds of million, whatever, millions of dollars on getting just the system in place. And that's what I'm technically being a disruptor to all of that. It's going to be a massive disruption, which is why it's taken so long, yelling at a wall for 7+ years, as to why this is better than the alternative. And I'm
Yeah.
finally getting traction. Like within the last year and a half, the traction has been
Right.
enormous.
Amazing. Well, happy to kind of like double click on that, go deeper. I guess one of my favorite things to do on my show is just to kind of slow things down, like I said. And I love tracking people's like hero's arc, if that makes sense, and why they're doing what they're doing beyond just like the logical reasons and how they
Yeah.
landed where they're at. So you started in law enforcement, like I mentioned in the intro, in the late 1990s. So where did you grow up, and like what pulled you towards putting on the badge in the first place?
So this is a funny story. So I grew up in Old Town, Maine, which is north. It's near Bangor. I don't know if anyone's familiar, but most people know Bangor, Maine. That's where Stephen King's from. I actually grew up a couple blocks from Stephen King. I was on 7th Street. He was down the road. We moved to Old Town. My father was kind of a poet, a songwriter, and that type of thing, a photographer. He actually worked for a place called Del Anchors in Washington, D.C. So I have a ton of old photos of presidents, of like Ted Williams, of all these people. So, anyways, we were living in Old Town, and at the mill, he brought home this hard hat, and it was a black hard hat, and it had a flashlight on it. And I'm a little kid, I'm probably 10 years old. I got a tree house out back, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. So I stuffed this helmet, put on my head, and I climbed that tree and fell out of that tree. And what did I hit? I hit my head on this rock that was shaped just like that, and it put a dent in the helmet. And I wasn't thinking really of, wow, it just saved my life. I'm thinking my dad's going to kick my ass. I just ruined this helmet. So from there, it inspires you. Young in life, what inspires you, these things. And then from there on, I guess the fascination with personal protection became a thing of mine. I got ownership over that based on an incident that probably could have injured me or less killed me. Who knows? So, and then, we're in the days of the 80s. So we're talking the G.I. Joes and all that stuff, just the fascination with that. And what really stupidly, this is going to be really dumb, but there was a video game that came out by Sierra called Police Quest. And yeah, you remember King's Quest games, those little games where you take a character and walk around and do
that one.
stupid things. You type in like pick up radio and just a little
I
pixel
might
guy
have played it.
walking around. So we played these games and we just got, hey, being a policeman, that's cool. That's really cool. And then that sticks with you, as a kid. So that sticks with you growing up. So, yeah, that's the origin story. As foolish as it is.
And before you were an inventor or a CEO, you were a patrol officer in Waterville, right? And a sergeant.
Yeah.
So, what did those years in like on shift actually teach you? About how gear does or does not hold up when it really matters.
Yeah, you get in a situation in a snap. You could be goofing it up, laughing and joking on something, and then have to go to something serious on a turn of a dime. And anything could be foul. I mean, you do a traffic stop, that could turn ugly quick. You don't know what you're walking into. So it became just very aware. You become aware of not only your equipment, but even how it's set up, what you have, how it's used in the field. And you just get a knack for these type of things. And then you become almost like, and I'm sure most policemen now, they're more like the tackleberries, back in the what was that movie? The funny ones there, the police ones there. See, I'm at a loss for words on it, but you know what I'm talking about.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like I can remember, forget the word, but yeah, it's like a super like funny one about
it was
police
just
officers.
comedic,
Yeah.
very comedic. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. So you've described yourself as someone who sees problems, differently, right? So was that always there as a kid? Did the
always,
job?
always. I was a terrible student. I mean, absolutely terrible. I barely, passed out of high school. I think I graduated 151 out of 154, something like that. But I did graduate, so there's a good positive there. But I never pursued college because, to me, if I wanted to learn, I'll get my hands dirty. I will dig in and learn. So most of everything that I've taught myself how to do it. I've taught myself Photoshop. I've taught myself how to write. I've taught myself CAD. It's just teaching myself, and I find that that's just something that I have. That's a gift to me, where I can just pursue something that I want to pursue and learn it 10 times faster than anybody could probably teach me.
Interesting. So you're not just like a cop turned founder, right?
Yeah.
You've written 9 screenplays, produced
Mhm.
award-winning films, even authored theoretical papers. So how does a creative life like that sit next to a career in law enforcement?
It's a curse. Like I said, I'm in a very analytical job with a very creative mind. And some things that come out of it were good. I mean, there was some interesting ideas that came about because of the creativeness, and just simple things, like how a cruiser would be set up and why that's important to me ergonomically. Maybe that's not as creative as you think, but it's certainly thinking outside of the box to put something in place that's going to be better uh, for the person. They're just little things, tiny things. 1-2% wins. That's all I'd be looking for there. And honestly, you can't get any better stories than working as a patrolman, I think, anywhere. You're just going to run into the most obnoxious, weird stories that you can't make them up. And people say, "Hey, tell me a funny police story," and I draw a blank because there's just so much stuff that's out there. It'd boggle your mind. I mean, um, I do have a funny one if you want to hear it. It's a funny story.
I'm here for it.
So we had to deal with a lot of emotionally disturbed people, and a lot of times they needed to go to the hospital. So they dispatched two of us to this house, and the person at the door is like, "Hey, if he's Howard, he's mad. If he's Kevin, he's chill." It's like, okay, all right, good. And we developed these skills through crisis intervention and talking to people. It wasn't just about dragging somebody and cuffing them and throwing a cruiser. So we go up and talk to this guy. He's sitting in a chair, and I say, "Hey, how's it going?" And I didn't want to say a name because I wanted to find out who he was. And he says, give me that look. And, and I'm like, "Hey, what's your name, guy?" And he's like, "It's Howard. My name's Howard." And I'm like, "Oh, he's agitated." So we try to convince him to go up to the hospital, and he just doesn't want to go. So I'm like, "Okay, fine. We're at this impasse, so I'm going to go grab him." And I go to grab him, and he kicked me. So he kicks me, and I kind of go back. So I'm like, "Oh no!" So I go to grab him again, and I felt my arm going like crazy like this. And I look back, and my partner had tried to tase him, but he hit me with this taser. So my arm is locking up, and at that point, I'm just mad. So this guy, I grabbed him, and we put him on the ground. And at that point, he's like, I'm Kevin. I'm Kevin." It's just really, I mean, unbelievable. Uh, it's sad. It really is sad. But get tased in the field by your own partner. That's pretty good.
That's a good one. Uh, so I guess somewhere along the way you decided you're gonna go build things, right? Not just use them. Like, was there a first invention or a first, I could make this better moment long before the eyewear?
Um, yeah, I've always had ideas on things. I was trying to come up with like a whole vest system, a new vest that actually included a power adaptation because a lot of the stuff in the field you had add-ons. Now they have all these cameras and all this stuff, but before the days of that, it was like, how could we integrate like an ANSI light system that's automatic into this vest? So and the perfect scenario is I'm at a crash scene and the car's crashed and it's at nighttime and I get out and I didn't grab my ANSI vest. I can turn the switch on. Now it's illuminating me. Right now it's got audio feed in the vest itself. So it's a powered vest. It's got a flashlight system in the vest. It had all these stuff integrated into an outer carrier system. So that was kind of like one of them. It didn't go anywhere because just technology changes so rapidly. And these things are pretty much all in place now that you can attach with a MOLLE strap to your vest systems and stuff. But, these ideas, they all popped in my head. So um, the eyewear thing didn't come for a while, but the name of the company did. And that's when I was doing the vest system. We call it the PAC vest, the powered armor carrier vest. And the name tardigrade, it just happened to come from an article I saw about the water bear and how you can't kill these things. They're just indestructible. And I thought that's a great name. That is a perfect name for a company that wants to deal with like protective products. So it was in the back of my mind. And then flash forward to it was like 2016, 17. There was a helmet that had come out from Japan called the Ronin, and you can see it. It's online. It was this guy took it was originally an airsoft helmet, kind of looked like Optimus Prime's face, and it's just really cool. It's a clamshell helmet. I've got one back here. You can't really see it, but it was very neat. And I got one because I thought it was very fascinating. And then I put it on and it was like this. I just had this beady eyed thing. I'm like, that needs to be opened up. We need to do something with that. And I was kind of working with a guy at the time and he wasn't willing to adjust. And I understand that he wasn't willing to adjust his design based on that. But I got experimenting with things and looking into it and discovered this glass. And I remember the first hit we took was back in, I think it was July of 17. And I took some samples up to this guy. We had a ton of samples. And the last sample I had was, I thought was going to be the waste of a time one. So we blew through all these samples and a 9mm was just blowing through all of them. And I'm like, you know what, the heck with it. Try the last sample. And he shot it and it stopped. And he was like, yeah, that's got to be a fluke. Get some more of this. We're going to test it again. Okay. So I got some more of it. A couple weeks later, go back. And he's like, listen, nobody cares about bullets with this. If you're going to make eyewear, it's all about frag. And I didn't know really. I knew a little bit about frag, but I didn't know it was so important to the military. So we tried it with it's called the 17 grain FSP. You can look them up. They're little shaped projectiles made of steel, and they shoot them at things to see what happens. And we stopped them like with a very thin version of this repeatedly. So that was a cool day. And then from there it was, let's talk patent time. And after 5 years, I got a patent on it, a granted patent. It took forever. It was the first time that my patent agent has been doing it for like 40 years. He said, we got the patent through and I've got the ribbon. The ribbon's right back behind my head. Then they recalled it. So the patent office pulled it back after it was granted. And he's like, I've never seen this happen before. I have never seen it. So we had to go back to work and try to figure out what they want or what they're looking for language wise. And it was just really stupid language that needed to be put in, but it actually gave us a broader patent. So that was good in the long run. But wow, you want to talk about brow sweating type of day when the patent office decides your patent's going to be pulled after being granted. That's a hairy day. But here we are now.
And is the core patent something about the glass itself, or is
It's
it the
about the lens.
harnessing around?
It's the lens structure, how the lens structure is put together. Yeah, it's very simple. So,
hey, and then I was asking you because like now I guess I don't know if they call it American dynamism or something, right? Like it's again, it's an investment kind of section of itself that like a lot of investors are getting excited about, right? Like just like this resurgence of America, right? So
yeah.
What's that? Lucky, what's that guy's name?
Lucky Palmer.
Like Lucky Palmer. So you and I were talking about this, right? So he's all over the news and stuff. He's on Joe Rogan the other day. He's building this eyewear that essentially, it's so cool. It's like all of us, like 10 of us could be in the battlefield. And if you're on that side of the bad guy, whatever, if you see the bad guy, I see him too. Like this crazy idea. But you were saying that someone like him could potentially leverage the tech that you guys are building. Like kind of like just to kind of
we'll differentiate what we're talking about. Let's just say you have an Oculus Quest.
Okay.
That's what he's building. He's building a headset designed in a different way that can be worn with a combat helmet and give you augmented reality, kind of like the Quest does. You can see it's pass through in a way. And it's the IVAS system. Microsoft tried it, they failed. And then Andro picked it up, IVAS 2.0, and it's not looking good. I don't know what the hang up is with it, because you don't want, I have kind of the key to the castle with my system because I have the ballistic side. And if you're going to talk about putting an operator with a drone headset on, you have to think about the logistics of warfare. So now I need a guy that's piloting the drone, but I need a team around, we still need a team. And who's going to go kick the doors? Who's going to go in and in the places and do stuff? So if you can take a system that is platform agnostic and put it on every soldier, but I can now power into anything I want, that's where it's at, because now the equipment doesn't become cumbersome. It doesn't become an extra add-on. It becomes part of your gear set. So that's why I'm kind of saying I'm sitting here owning the key to the castle to this, because ballistically, there's nothing better on the planet than what we've come up with. And now it's starting to be seen. It has been seen by Congress. It's been seen by the Senate. They're championing it. DevCom, the U.S. Army, is championing it. PEO Soldier is going to champion it. So it's going to change. The spec will change. The disruption will happen. It's just a matter of waiting this game out and getting everything lined up.
So, you've talked about this gap between life and injury being millimeters, right? And about
Yeah.
essentially having worn the gear yourself. Was
Mhm.
there a specific moment? I mean, you talked about when you fell on your head as a
Yeah.
kid, but was there a specific moment, like when you were older, where it stopped being abstract for you?
No, it was always there. It just becomes part of you, especially as a kid, because everything you do as a kid just seems to be amplified as to what happens in your adulthood. So it was always there. I've always been kind of a gear junkie, I guess. I just love the equipment side of things, love the protection things, kind of a prepper mentality, like what could I do to survive anything type of a thing. How much food do I need? How much water filtration? How much power do I need? Could I go live in a hole for like 6 years and not have anybody bother me? That would be decent, I think. So you think in terms of those steps as to be like, how could I best protect me and my family or people around me, that's going to give us the best longevity, the best chance of survival. So that's just instilled in me over years. So my camera's doing something weird. I'm trying to focus it, but okay.
So, some of this like drone footage that's coming out of Ukraine shifted a lot of thinking, right? So what did
Yeah,
you see in the data that made you certain like that the timing for this was now and not 10 years from now? I mean, you kind of alluded to the drone idea, but
yeah.
that's where my mind was going too, is that
Well, the drones
warfare
have
seems like
changed.
it's elevated a bit. Yeah,
It
it's above
has, and
ground. Mm.
drones have certainly changed the battlefield. It used to be that you could egress, you could get in to a certain level mile wise into this range where they either call it a hut zone or something. And now that's not the case anymore. You'd have to be like 100 miles out and you can't get in because of the drones. So when you look at what Ukraine's done, it's all now trench. It's back to World War One trench warfare. Everything's digging down, digging in, getting into trenches and stuff. So your blast from these drones is ridiculous because they can have something and target, just go in and target something, and usually it's going to be head level because that's your carotid, your neck area, your head. That's your threat. Most extremities have been kind of protected now through leg chaps and groin protection and that sort of thing. So it's just gotten nasty. Um, not to
So
really quantify it, but
you hold this patent, right, on transparent ballistics armor that plenty
Mhm.
of people assumed was physically impossible in a
Right.
lens. What
Yeah.
was the insight that made you believe it could actually be done? Like, was it that range day? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
even that, how
Well,
did
the
you
range
arrive at that?
day.
Like, did it have something to do with how you structured the lens, you said, or was it the glass
Yeah.
itself,
Yeah.
or a
It's kind of
combination, or the harnessing, or
no. It's just a proprietary
or
stack up. Proprietary stack up. So I don't want to give. I don't really want to give it away. You could probably
sure.
research and find out, but that's go ahead, research and find out. But yes, it is patent protected, and it's just a different way of thinking about how things like a kinetic event. How does a kinetic event happen? And when you look at cars, and this is what I'll say, cars back in the 50s and 60s, they were very steel framed, huge Buicks that could run into a tree, but you'd be in that car, and you might take the tree out, but you're going along for the ride. So cars today are designed to collapse and crush to save to transfer and dissipate energy to keep that energy, the kinetic energy from getting to you, and resource it and bound it and impulse itself around in through the crushing of the structure. So same way of thinking about it. It just took this many years to get here.
In your intake, you told me the most counterintuitive thing you've learned is that this is a real problem and
Mm.
it can be solved easily, right? So most people in your space would push back hard on easily. I guess like why are they wrong?
Well, easily in a sense of if the hardest thing is the adoption. It's for somebody to look at what we have and say, why would I pay $100 more for that when there's no standard for it? So we're going back to standardization, institutionalized people, and but to actually physically build, to distribute is a walk in the park. It's a matter of changing the mindset of people to adopt that protection level. And that's where the conversation is happening to date.
Nice. Cool. So was there a moment where your whole picture of what you were building changed? Like where you realized that this was not just like a, better pair of goggles, but it was like a category that, didn't even exist?
Yeah. Yeah. Early on, very early on, we identified that. I didn't realize how difficult it would be to bring this up the chain. Because you would think, I mean, in anybody's mind, I think the hardest part of having something as a disruptive business is that adoption phase, is getting it to people who will understand it and then take it to that next level. That is the most challenging part, I think, of most businesses, because I could have the best the best thing, and just because it's better than something else doesn't necessarily mean people are going to want it. Let's go back to VHS tapes. VHS was far inferior, sorry, to the beta tapes. I don't know if you see, you probably don't remember that. I'm aging myself greatly. Back in the 80s, they had beta tapes that were really small and they had better fidelity. Then they had VHS tapes, but they were cheaper to make and they just got adopted that way. You know, it was a cost factor that drove it. So now we have to leverage how are we saving money by implementing this eyewear? Well, that's easy. If you can prevent injuries on a battlefield, you're preventing $1 million babies from coming home with either lost eyes or damaged eyes or TBI or any of that thing. So that's my proposition is that by spending money on this, you're going to save money, and the quality of life of people. I mean, I don't want to be volunteering to go over and serve and then come back with a debilitating injury that could have been prevented by technology that we know and have.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. So your line is that if you wear a combat helmet, wear armored eyewear, and you own that trademark, right? So can you unpack it for me? Like, well, what does the world look like when that actually becomes the standard?
If it becomes a standard, then every soldier's face has changed for the better. It literally, as it says, if you wear a hard hat, you should wear safety glasses, and we all know that. OSHA knows that. But in a theater of war, why don't we just wear hard hats instead of combat helmets? Doesn't make any sense. You know, the threat levels are different. It's a different tool for a different job. So if we can actually marry the spec as to what's they're dealing with for threats, it should be on every soldier's face.
That's crazy. Yeah. So Chris, you've taken this from a lab and a patent to real validation from people, who don't really hand it out lightly. Without getting into anything, you can't say publicly, obviously, what does it mean to you that the people who set the standards are pointing at your technology?
It is humbling in a way, because the journey has been so long that there's times you just want to quit. You just want to say, nobody cares. And to see that is changing, it's very humbling to me to actually get there.
So there's a version of this that stays, purely military, right? And a version that reaches mining, construction, industrial workers, I assume, anyone whose eyes are at risk.
Yep.
How do you think about this? I guess, how do you think about who this is for ultimately?
Anybody in a high risk environment. If you're in a high pressure area, you probably want to be wearing them. If you're doing arc flash, probably want to be wearing them. Mining for certainly, oil rigs for certain. So just anything that's,
Does having a 2-year-old boy count?
2-year-old boy? Well, my
Yeah,
2-year-old is
he
now.
scratched my wife's cornea the other day. I mean,
Oh,
literally.
Yeah.
I know it's not a battlefield, but dude, it can be literally. My 8-year-old has a red mark like this big on her face from this getting swiped. Anyways, I'm just kidding a little bit, but so anyone who's essentially in that kind of environment, I started my career in oil sands,
Sure, we're not out to replace, like you said, the cornea scratch. That's perfectly prevented from eyewear. Mowing your lawn, doing certain tasks. It's like I said, it's the tool for the job, right? It's the absolute tool for the job. And like I said, why is the soldier not wearing a hard hat when they're $5 as opposed to a combat helmet, which is very expensive? Why are they wearing that as opposed to that? Well, it's because of standardization of protection, right? So if we can absolutely adopt a better standardization for protection, especially on something that's very small, and the key to anything, as far as I'm concerned, your vision is probably one of the best senses you ever have. Really, right? And yeah, it's to me, it's a no-brainer. Hopefully other people feel the same way, and I know there's people that don't, and that's fair. I have no qualms about other people's opinions, but I've been there, lived it, and realized that it's true.
No brainer, pun intended. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Okay, I get it,
unintended.
man. It's no, I mean, to me, it seems obvious too, right? And
Mm,
definitely, I agree that your eyes are. I mean, I tinker a lot with AI and all that kind of stuff, as you know, and more and more of it, I'm moving towards like these, like my input's always voice because I find like voice is the easiest way to communicate. But then
hmm.
when I take information in, it's always my eyes.
Yep.
And so like now the whole movement is HTML and like rich kind of, why? Because it's like your eyes able to just take in so much data. And so like to not have that, not so fun.
No.
The companies, you mentioned this earlier as well, is named after an animal that survives almost anything. And,
Yeah.
your vision statement is, our vision is to protect yours, right? So can you strip away the specs and like the contracts? Like what is the mission actually about for you?
That says it all. Our vision is to protect yours. One sentence tells the whole story of what it's all about. I'm not a person who needs materialistic things. Money to me is a fuel to build things. I don't care about the Lambos or the yachts or the mansions or anything like that. Money to me is fuel to continue to innovate and just either push boundaries or build things that are useful.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Chris, this has been a lot of fun, man. Maybe help me land the plane with this last question here, right? So, I mean, you're building something American made, right? It's hard to
Yep.
copy. You're solving a problem that you could argue most people don't even know exists yet.
Right.
So for the founders and builders that are watching, like what is the one thing you've learned about turning a live problem into something real that you wish someone, had told you that at the start, essentially?
I think if you believe in it, be persistent. Just if you believe in it and other people around you believe it, don't worry about the haters, don't worry about anything else. If you believe it, go do it and continue to do it, even through the hard times, even through the slog and the mud and stuff like that. Because if you do have something that's recognizable, you're going to achieve it. It's just putting in the time.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, I see we have quite a few people tuned in, so I appreciate all of you listening to our conversation. Chris, thank you so much for your
Well, thank you.
time and
Yeah.
and yeah, and for building something that's not just like some vibe coded web app that someone whipped up on a weekend, but
Right.
something that
No,
I'm sure took a lot of time, energy, money, resources, blood, sweat, tears, and now
all of it.
you're at an exciting, kind of inflection point for your business. So
Yes,
if
I agree.
anyone wants to learn more about it, if people want to tap into your consciousness, like where do
Sure.
people find out about you and the company?
There's tardigrade.industries is the website that hosts all that. I obviously have an Instagram page. It's Chris McKenna. It's right there. There's some weird stuff. I just do weird. I post weird things about some close-up bug shots and stuff. But yeah, and then go to that, and my LinkedIn page is always there.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, with that, I'm going to bring this stream to an end. I've got another stream starting in about 15 minutes. So people, if you want to come back, join us for that one. Chris, thanks again.
Thank
And
you, Sonny.
yeah, with that said, I'll bring this one to an end.